Thank you very much. The terrible reality of the web, right, which has a longer memory than ourselves.
It doesn't forget.
So, yes, I hope my slides will come up in a second. Yeah, thank you very much. So, good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. My name is Julien Blanchet. I joined Google in 2008. I moved to the US to work alongside the security and compliance engineering teams for a few years. I'm now back in my home country in Brussels, and as was said, I'm the solutions lead for the digital sovereignty program at Google. So we can move to the next slide. So I want to spend a few minutes today, 15 minutes exactly, to give you a heads up on a few recent moves made by Google to help its customer reach their desired level of sovereignty, of digital sovereignty. So this simple slide tries to show how Google is today one of the largest, if not the largest, cloud infrastructure today, certainly the fastest growing, as more and more organizations worldwide are moving critical data sets and critical workloads to the cloud. But to paraphrase Urs Holzler, who is the Swiss executive that has led the buildup of Google infrastructure over the last 20 years, to be a truly global cloud, we need to be local. And being local means more than just these different Google regions that you see on the map there, with a high density in Europe, as some of us might be surprised to see. But we need to go further than just data localization. Many of us and professionals in the field have been advocating for data localization as a first step, but we now all know that we need to go way beyond just simple localization. And the demands of digital sovereignty are bigger than this. So we can go to the next slide. So if you haven't seen them, I'm going to speak about the first two deep technology partnerships that Google has announced with European partners that will allow our customers to truly benefit from the transformational capabilities of the cloud and the innovation that is expected today. While doing this on our local terms, on their customers, on their terms, or within our local European values or even national values, as I've heard also in the previous talk. All nations have their own interpretations of sovereignty, and so it is not necessarily very easy to, not for regulators, but also not for technology providers to align on all the specific requirements. But we made these announcements, which we believe will make it possible to combine the magic of the cloud, truly transformational, with the controls that are typically more associated with a more private options, and this without having to revert to very basic cloud hosting. Much of the cloud offers today that try to meet these sovereignty requirements typically try to disconnect from a public fabric or a public cloud network. And by being disconnected, you land back or you fall back onto very basic compute and storage offering, which really do not offer the competitive advantage that we ought to give to our European organizations today. So we believe we can still deliver on the Google mission to offer this transformation while meeting our customers' terms. So if you go to the next slide, we have recognized that the digital sovereignty requirements today will impact a very large portion of our market. So it's clearly business driven in a way. We need to adapt to the demand. And this demand goes beyond just the concerns of security and controls of the data. So we're all very aware of the perceived lack of control that we have as users or as customers of cloud operations, and certainly the Schrems, the activity of Schrems and the Schrems II ruling have made it very clear how security and control needs to evolve. But it goes beyond that, and the concerns we have recognized is really economic. So there is a clear fear from foreign countries, outside of the United States, to be locked in and to see so much data being concentrated into foreign providers. And there is also an awareness now that Europe certainly lacks global providers in terms of computing power and storage power, and this creates an imbalance that needs to be fixed. Additionally, the geopolitical situation has dramatically changed over the last few years, and we as a technology provider need to take that into account and make sure that our solutions offer a capability, a survivability capability, so that to take one of our customers as an example, if we are restrained from offering our services to Airbus, Aerospace and Defense, for example, for geopolitical reasons, they should be able to continue to operate at least for a while, like they were in the world, in the technology world before the cloud. So we can go to the next slide. So Google laid out a vision in September of 2020. So exactly 1 year ago, Thomas Kurian, at the time new CEO of Google Cloud, laid out a vision for digital sovereignty that goes beyond the classical realm of data sovereignty. So of course, we need to cater for data sovereignty. We need to provide the controls, cryptographic or access controls to our customers so that they can feel certain that they control how the data is being used. But we believe it goes further. And who operates these controls is actually a concern. And we need to find a way to possibly delegate the operations of these controls to other partners, maybe not subject to US law, so that true sovereignty can be retained. And then going further, software sovereignty or the survivability capability needs to be guaranteed in such a way that even in the event of a highly disruptive geopolitical event, customers of a large cloud infrastructure may continue to operate, even if falling back on other options, but giving them the time to offer options. So if we go to the next slide. 1 year later, we have announced now a set of solutions that are offering different levels of controls to ambition to achieve these sovereignty requirements. So it is still work. It is not a silver bullet, but by using some of the components of these portfolio of options, we believe organizations worldwide, and specifically in Europe, can achieve their sovereignty requirements. First of all, there are a number of core controls that we remind our customers and regulators that exist natively in our offering that allows to achieve a certain level of sovereignty. But we have announced end of September data sovereignty controls, which basically respond to the request from the European data protection boards to come up or consider supplementary measures in the case that a risk assessment would have made it obvious that these supplementary measures need to be applied. So these are a set of cryptographic measures, access control measures, and European support, we call that. So we localize the support of our cloud operations within Europe. That should help the large majority of our customers to respond or to take into consideration the recommendations of the EDPB. Additionally, we recognize that the fact that these controls are still operated by a US entity can be a real problem for a subset of our customers, and therefore we have announced the arrival of operational sovereignty controls, which basically are the delegation of these controls to local partners that operate the cloud, operate the public cloud in not even in our name, in their own name. So and make sure that this happens beyond the reach of foreign jurisdiction. Finally, we recognize that for secret and top secret workload, complete disconnection is required, though we firmly believe that this complete disconnection comes with an extraordinary cost? Would it be financial, but also in terms of resilience, scalability, and also security? Because when you disconnect, you cannot update as fast as you could, on a public infrastructure. So paradoxically, this kind of sovereignty requirements could also possibly impact, these four realms. So it's a trade-off that customers need to take very, very wisely. But considering this portfolio, we believe everybody can build a good response to its own specific sovereignty requirements. If we go to the next slide, this is another view, but maybe looking at the market potential or the market addressed. Sorry for taking more of an inside-out view here, but we believe that, of course, the current controls in the public cloud will help address the mainstream markets, but some sensitive data workloads will require these additional sovereignty controls announced in September. And through the partnerships that we announced with TSI in Germany and Thales in France, we believe that the delegation of the operations of the cloud will offer the independence that is desired by many. So if you go to the next slide. So as I said, early in September, we announced our first sovereignty partnerships with T-Systems in Germany. And then later in the end of September, we announced a similar partnership with Thales. I say similar, but not exactly the same, because both these partnerships respond specifically to the demands of their own regulators. So the technical solution that is built with T-Systems addresses specifically the requirements in Germany, and the one with Thales in France addresses specifically the requirements of the Secnum Cloud demands. And both these partnerships will bring to the market a set of solutions that, though the level of security will be more or less the same, or will be the same as the one on the public sector, on the public cloud infrastructure, the level of trust, we believe, which will be much increased, because this security will not be delivered by a US entity, but by German-operated engineers or a French-located organization. How does this work practically? If we go to the final slide, is really with these local partners, we built what we called trusted partner sovereign clouds, which are exact replicas of our Google public cloud. It is the same software stack and the same hardware stack that we deliver. But this is operated by engineers from these partners without any of our engineers having either logical or physical access to the infrastructure, without the control of these engineers. So you could imagine that for the first level or high level support, the partner could deal and manage the situations by themselves. If we would have to go into deeper support, sometimes Google engineers may intervene, but will have to do so with the escort, logical or physical, of a local German or French engineer. So these are the first two partnerships of a series that we are planning to announce in the coming months. And we believe that this substantial recalibration, this is one of the largest horizontal engineering projects at Google today, will truly help public clouds to respond more locally to the sovereignty requirements of our customers. If you go to the next slide, I just want to wrap up saying this is a very bold move for Google, where we believe that we can deliver groundbreaking technology without making any trade-offs, while meeting the expectations of our local customers, specifically in Europe. But of course, this will also interest other countries than just Europe. Voilà. I hope this was useful.